The sun had barely risen over Rocky Mount, North Carolina on August 11, 2024. At approximately 5 a.m., while most families were still asleep, the quiet of Weaver Circle was shattered by gunshots.
A 6-year-old is in the hospital with life-threatening injuries this morning. Police say a man shot her and killed her mother, then shot and killed himself. WRAL's Laura Levine joins us live from the...
What began as a domestic dispute quickly escalated into violence that would span 2 counties and forever change multiple lives. In those early morning hours, a decision made just days earlier when 27-year-old Kiera Massenburg helped post bail for Daquan Jones, the father of her child, set in motion a sequence of events that would end with 3 deaths across multiple crime scenes. The morning that should have been like any other Sunday instead became the final chapter in a story of escalating abuse, misplaced trust, and profound tragedy. As dawn broke over North Carolina, no one yet knew that by the time the next day arrived, both Kiera and her 6-year-old daughter Zoey would be gone forever. Kiera Massenburg radiated warmth. At 27, she was known throughout Rocky Mount for her infectious laugh and unwavering generosity. Friends described her as someone whose smile could light up any room. She worked at Mo & D's, a local establishment where customers would often visit just to experience her positive energy. But above all else, Kiera was devoted to her daughter Zoey, a bright-eyed 6-year-old who inherited her mother's joyful spirit and loved dancing and singing. The bond between them was unbreakable, until that August morning when a single decision culminated in devastating consequences for them both. Behind Kiera's vibrant exterior lay a complicated relationship marked by escalating violence. Court records revealed a disturbing pattern. In November 2023, Daquan Jones was arrested for threatening Kiera, telling her, "You think I'm playing? I'm gonna hurt you." By July 2024, the threats had transformed into brutal physical assault. Jones punched Kiera in the face, knocking out several teeth and fracturing her nose. Despite these dangerous warning signs, Jones walked free just days before the murder. The justice system that should have protected Kiera instead allowed her abuser to return to the community after posting bail that Kiera herself helped provide. This fatal gap in victim protection isn't unique to Rocky Mount. Across America, domestic violence victims often remain tethered to their abusers through emotional bonds, financial dependence, and fear, while systems designed to safeguard them frequently fall short at the most critical moments. Before we continue with Kiera and Zoey's story, I want to take a moment to address why sharing these accounts matters. At True Crime Affairs, we believe every tragedy carries lessons that might save lives in the future. If you're watching this video, you likely share our commitment to understanding not just what happened, but why and how similar outcomes might be prevented. This isn't simply about documenting violence, it's about recognizing patterns that could protect someone you know or even yourself. That's why I'm asking you to subscribe to our channel right now. With each new subscriber, we reach more people with these crucial messages. Hit that subscribe button and activate notifications so you never miss an episode that might contain information that saves lives. While you're taking action, please like this video too. This simple gesture helps our algorithm reach others who need this knowledge. And drop a comment below sharing your thoughts on how the justice system might better protect domestic violence victims. Your engagement isn't just supporting our channel, it's creating a community dedicated to awareness and change. Together, we can transform these heartbreaking stories into catalysts for protecting vulnerable individuals in similar situations. Now, let's return to Kiera's story and understand the woman behind the headlines. To know Kiera Massenburg was to experience genuine warmth. Those who met her described a woman whose presence transformed ordinary moments into meaningful connections. At 27, she had cultivated a reputation throughout Rocky Mount as someone who gave freely of herself, her time, her encouragement, her compassion. She was the friend who checked on everyone else first, recalled one longtime acquaintance. Even on her hardest days. Within her community, Kiera became known as a reliable shoulder, a source of wisdom beyond her years. Her apartment often became an informal gathering space where neighbors would stop by for coffee and conversation. She volunteered at local food drives whenever her work schedule allowed. As a mother, Kiera approached parenting with both tenderness and determination. She read to Zoey nightly, helped with preschool projects, and documented milestones with careful attention. Her nurturing extended beyond her immediate family to friends in need of guidance or support. The bond between Kiera and Zoey transcended the typical mother-daughter relationship. They were, as one family friend put it, two souls perfectly in sync. Zoey inherited her mother's expressive eyes and vibrant laugh. Together, they created traditions: Sunday morning pancakes, bedtime stories with different character voices, and dance parties in their living room. Kiera structured her life around core values that she hoped to pass to her daughter: honesty, compassion, and resilience. She would often tell friends that her greatest achievement wasn't what she accomplished for herself, but who she was helping Zoey become: a confident, kind-hearted individual ready to face the world. At Moendi's, where Kiera worked, her impact went far beyond serving customers. Co-workers describe a woman who transformed the atmosphere of the establishment with her presence alone. She remembered everyone's orders, their kids' names, what they were celebrating that week, said a fellow server. People would request her section specifically, even if it meant waiting longer for a table. The restaurant's owner recalled how Kiera stepped up during difficult times. When we were short-staffed, she covered shifts without complaint. During the pandemic, she organized meal deliveries to elderly regulars who couldn't leave home. A regular customer added, "Kiera made you feel like you mattered. She listened, really listened, when you spoke to her." Her work family became an extension of her home life, with many colleagues attending Zoey's birthday parties and Kiera hosting holiday gatherings for those without family nearby. Life had not been gentle with Kiera, yet those who knew her marveled at her unwavering optimism. She faced financial hardships, working double shifts while pursuing online classes toward a business degree. When confronted with obstacles, her response was consistent: find the good, make a plan, keep moving forward. Her social media reflected this outlook: posts about gratitude, photos of small victories, and affirmations she'd written for herself. "Kiera taught me that joy is a choice," said her closest friend. She'd acknowledge the difficulty, feel it fully, then deliberately focus on what she could control. This deliberate pursuit of happiness wasn't naive, it was her form of resistance against circumstances that might otherwise overwhelm. Like many relationships, Kiera and Daquan's began with promise. Friends noted that Daquan Jones, 32, initially presented himself as attentive and caring toward Kiera. Their connection resulted in the birth of their daughter Zoey, whom both parents adored. However, what appeared as a normal relationship to outsiders gradually transformed into something more concerning. Those closest to Kiera began noticing subtle changes in her behavior around Daquan. She became more reserved in group settings, often checking her phone repeatedly when messages arrived. According to co-workers at Moendi's, Kiera would sometimes arrive with unexplained bruises she attributed to clumsiness. This pattern reflects what experts identify as the isolation phase in abusive relationships, when control gradually tightens and a victim's independence diminishes. For Kiera, her strong maternal instinct toward Zoey may have influenced her decision to maintain the relationship despite early warning signs of trouble. By November 2023, the relationship had deteriorated significantly. Court records document a disturbing confrontation where Daquan Jones directly threatened Kiera's safety. "You think I'm playing? I'm gonna hurt you," he told her during an argument that escalated to the point where neighbors called authorities. When police arrived, Jones became combative, resulting in additional charges of resisting arrest. Officers noted in their report that Kiera appeared visibly shaken but declined emergency shelter services. Jones was briefly detained, then released with a restraining order that, according to friends, was not consistently enforced. This incident represented a critical moment when the justice system first became aware of the volatile situation. Despite the explicit threat, the case was processed as a routine domestic disturbance rather than as an indicator of potential future violence. For Kiera, the incident placed her in the impossible position of navigating both fear for her safety and concern for maintaining family stability for Zoey. The violence escalated dramatically in July 2024, just weeks before the fatal incident. During an argument at Kiera's home, Jones physically attacked her with devastating force. He punched her repeatedly in the face, knocking out several of her teeth and fracturing her nose. The assault was so severe that Kiera required emergency medical care and facial reconstruction consultation. Medical records described extensive facial trauma, with doctors documenting the assault as one of the most severe domestic violence injuries they had treated that year. Jones was arrested and charged with assault inflicting serious bodily injury, a felony offense that carried significant potential prison time. Despite the traumatic injuries she sustained, Kiera maintained contact with Jones during his detention. Hospital staff reported that he called her multiple times from jail, conversations that alternated between apologies and blame shifting. This pattern of severe violence followed by reconciliation attempts illustrates the complex psychological bonds that often develop in long-term abusive relationships, bonds that would ultimately contribute to a devastating decision. Right now, I want to pause this story to connect with you directly. If you're watching and recognizing similar patterns in your own life or the life of someone you care about, please know these warning signs deserve attention. Take a moment to hit the like button if you believe more people need education about domestic violence warning signs. Your simple click helps this crucial information reach others who might need it. In the comments below, share one warning sign that you believe is often overlooked in potentially dangerous relationships. Your insight could help someone identify a risk factor they hadn't considered before. And if you haven't already, subscribe to True Crime Affairs for more content that goes beyond storytelling to provide life-saving awareness. Click the notification bell too, so you never miss these essential conversations. Your engagement creates a community where we can learn from these tragedies together and potentially prevent future harm. Now, let's continue examining the critical decision that preceded this tragedy. In July 2024, following a violent assault that left Kiera with fractured facial bones and missing teeth, Daquan Jones faced serious legal consequences. Police arrested the 32-year-old on charges of assault inflicting serious bodily injury, a felony offense in North Carolina carrying potential prison time of 15 to 31 months. Court documents detailed how Jones had punched Kiera repeatedly in the face with enough force to require emergency medical treatment. The severity of her injuries prompted prosecutors to request a substantial bail amount, citing both the brutality of the attack and Jones' previous arrest for threatening Kiera in November 2023. Despite the severity of her injuries, Kiera made the fateful decision to help post Jones' bail. Friends later revealed she contributed collateral for his release, believing his promises of changed behavior. This choice, made just days before the murder-suicide, reflected the complex emotional tug-of-war many victims experience. Text messages recovered from Kiera's phone showed Jones apologizing profusely, claiming his time in jail had changed him and that he couldn't live without her and Zoey. For Kiera, like many victims of domestic violence, hope for transformation and concerns for financial stability likely outweighed her fear of potential danger. Domestic violence experts identify Kiera's experience as consistent with established patterns in abusive relationships. The cycle typically moves through three phases: tension building, acute violence, and reconciliation. During reconciliation, often called the honeymoon phase, abusers show remorse, make promises of change, and offer affection to regain trust. This pattern creates powerful psychological bonds through trauma. Studies show victims attempt to leave an average of 7 times before successfully escaping. Financial entanglement, shared children, and fear of escalated violence if they leave compound these difficulties. For Kiera, these forces converged at the worst possible moment, reinforcing her connection to Jones despite clear danger signs. Dr. Monica Williams, a trauma specialist who works with domestic violence survivors, explains, what outsiders perceive as poor judgment is actually the result of trauma bonding, a psychological attachment formed through repeated cycles of abuse and reconciliation. The brain's reward pathways become conditioned to associate the relief of abuse ending with intense positive emotions. This phenomenon, combined with what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, leads victims to rationalize staying. When someone has invested emotionally in a relationship, they often minimize negative aspects to reduce internal conflict, Dr. Williams notes. This protective psychological mechanism tragically keeps many trapped in dangerous situations until it's too late. The pre-dawn hours of Sunday, August 11, 2024, found Kiera Massenburg at a home on Weaver Circle in Sharpsburg. With her was her daughter Zoey, who had likely been asleep when the night's calm shattered. Also present were two friends, 27-year-old Macau Page and 30-year-old Devontae Ricks, perhaps offering Kiera the support she needed after Daquan Jones' recent release from custody. Approximately 5 a.m., a time when most neighborhoods rest in silence, an argument erupted. What sparked this final confrontation remains unclear. Was it jealousy over Kiera's friends? Resentment about his arrest? Or perhaps the culmination of long-simmering tensions? Witnesses later told investigators that voices escalated quickly. Neighbors reported hearing shouting before the violence began. What we do know with certainty is that Jones, who had threatened Kiera's life before, arrived at the residence in an agitated state. The man who had been released from jail just hours earlier, thanks in part to Kiera's assistance with his bail, now stood before her, his anger escalating. For Kiera, there may have been a moment of recognition, the realization that the cycle of abuse she had endured was about to reach its devastating conclusion. The threat he had made months earlier, "I'm gonna hurt you," was about to become a horrific reality. Violence erupted without warning. In quick succession, Jones pulled out a firearm and opened fire inside the Weaver Circle residence. The first shot struck Kiera, who had no opportunity to escape or protect herself. Her 6-year-old daughter Zoe, awakened by the commotion, became another target as Jones turned the weapon on his own child. The chaos continued as Jones fired at Page and Devontae Ricks. Page sustained minor injuries that would later allow her to provide crucial testimony. Ricks was critically wounded, his condition dire as first responders later rushed him to a hospital. Blood stained the floors of what should have been a safe haven. 4 people lay wounded, their lives forever altered in mere seconds. For Kiera, those seconds proved fatal. The domestic violence that had previously manifested as threats and physical assault had now transformed into its most extreme and irreversible form, a sequence of gunshots that ended a mother's life. After the shooting, Jones acted with calculated precision. He loaded Kiera's lifeless body into a vehicle. Despite Zoe's critical wounds, he also placed his injured daughter in the car and fled Sharpsburg. The 20-mile drive to Nash County must have been a grim journey through early morning darkness, with his deceased former partner beside him and his mortally wounded child in the back seat. Upon reaching his residence on Jamie Road, Jones made a decision that defies comprehension. He removed Zoe from the vehicle and left her at the property, grievously injured and alone. The young girl, bleeding from a gunshot wound that would ultimately prove fatal, had been transported across county lines only to be abandoned by her father. Jones left Kiera's body in the vehicle, a final act of disregard for the woman who had once posted his bail. With both victims disposed of, he entered his home, the final location in this tragic sequence of events. Police responded to emergency calls from both locations. At the Weaver Circle address, officers found 2 victims, Page with minor injuries and Devontae Ricks in critical condition. Meanwhile, Nash County authorities converged on Jamie Road where they discovered 3 interconnected scenes: Kiera's body still in the vehicle, young Zoe clinging to life with a gunshot wound, and inside the residence, Jones deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot. The multi-jurisdictional investigation revealed the timeline of events spanning 2 counties. Medical personnel rushed Zoe to a nearby hospital where surgeons fought to save her life. Police secured both scenes, documenting the evidence of what would soon become a triple fatality. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please know that help exists. The National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 offers 24/7 confidential support and safety planning. Text START to 88788 if making a call isn't safe. Take a moment now to save this number in your phone. It could save your life or someone else's. Like this video to help others find this crucial information, and subscribe to our channel for more awareness content. In the comments, share any local resources you know about in your community. Your knowledge might reach someone who desperately needs it, creating a lifeline when it matters most. 6-year-old Zoe Jones arrived at the emergency room in critical condition. The gunshot wound had caused severe internal trauma, requiring immediate surgical intervention. Medical staff worked tirelessly through the morning hours as the young girl fought for her life on the operating table. "We did everything medically possible," said the lead trauma surgeon at Nash General Hospital. The surgical team performed multiple procedures to address the damage. Throughout the day, Zoe remained in intensive care, connected to life support systems that monitored her vital signs. Nurses described her condition as extremely critical as specialists consulted on her case. Despite the advanced medical technology and the dedicated team's best efforts, Zoe's injuries proved catastrophic. The damage to her small body was too extensive. Hospital staff maintained round-the-clock care, administering pain medication and monitoring her declining condition as family members gathered at her bedside, hoping for a miracle that would never come. As word spread about the shooting, Rocky Mount residents rallied in support. Local churches opened their doors for prayer vigils while neighbors brought food to extended family members. Within hours, social media pages filled with messages of support and outrage. "This has shaken our entire community," said Pastor Michael Williams of First Baptist Church. "We're all asking how this could happen." Schools prepared counselors for students who would need support processing the tragedy. Local businesses displayed purple ribbons, the color representing domestic violence awareness, and many closed early as a sign of respect. The county crisis response team mobilized to provide mental health services to affected residents. At 2:17 p.m. on August 12, just over 33 hours after the shooting, Zoey Jones was pronounced dead. The medical team had exhausted every option, but her body could not overcome the trauma. Family members who had maintained a constant bedside vigil were present for her final moments. The hospital chaplain later described the scene as profound grief beyond words. Nursing staff lined the hallway as her body was taken away, a silent tribute to a life cut devastatingly short. The medical examiner's report would later confirm that despite receiving the highest level of emergency care available, Zoey's injuries were non-survivable from the outset. The official cause of death was listed as complications from gunshot wound. With her passing, the tragedy's toll reached its full measure: a mother, her daughter, and the man responsible. All gone within a span of 36 hours, leaving a community in mourning and searching for answers. The deaths of Kiera and Zoey sent shockwaves through Rocky Mount and Sharpsburg. Within days, hundreds gathered at a local park for a balloon release ceremony. The evening sky filled with pink and white balloons, Zoey's favorite colors, as community members stood shoulder to shoulder in grief and solidarity. Many attendees wore custom t-shirts bearing the images of mother and daughter, with messages reading "Stop Domestic Violence" and "Forever in Our Hearts." A local pastor led prayers while childhood friends of Kiera shared memories of her generosity and warmth. "This shouldn't have happened," said Kiera's former high school classmate. "We're here not just to mourn, but to make sure their names become a rallying cry for change." At Mo&D's, where Kiera worked, co-workers created a permanent memorial corner with photographs and messages from regular customers who missed her welcoming presence behind the counter. Within hours of the tragedy, Kiera's co-worker created a GoFundMe campaign titled "Remembering Kiera and Zoey." The fundraiser's description highlighted Kiera as a cherished friend whose light touched everyone and Zoey as a joyful spirit whose dancing brought happiness. The campaign quickly surpassed its initial $10,000 goal, ultimately raising over $20,000 for funeral expenses and support for extended family. Beyond financial contributions, local businesses stepped up. The elementary school where Zoey had just completed kindergarten established a scholarship fund in her name. Mo&D's hosted a benefit night, donating 50% of proceeds to domestic violence awareness programs. A local salon offered free haircuts with donations going toward the family. "What makes Rocky Mount special is how we come together," said Mayor David Combs at a city council meeting addressing the tragedy. "This community refuses to let Kiera and Zoey's story end with violence." The tragedy quickly drew attention beyond Nash County. Local outlets like WRAL-TV and the Rocky Mount Telegram covered developments daily, while national publications including the Washington Post ran features on domestic violence in rural communities. Coverage focused not just on the crime, but on systemic issues that failed to protect Kiera despite documented abuse. Social media platforms saw #JusticeForKiera and Zoey trend regionally, with thousands sharing resources for domestic violence victims. Many posts highlighted the red flags in Jones' behavior and questioned why his bail had been granted despite his violent history. State legislators cited the case during hearings on protective order enforcement. A bill was announced to introduce strengthening penalties for repeat domestic offenders. "The public reaction shows people are tired of these preventable tragedies," said Marilyn Richardson, director of a local women's shelter. "This case removed the veil of privacy that often shrouds domestic violence." The most glaring failure in Kiera and Zoey's case lies within the bail process that allowed Daquan Jones to walk free despite his violent history. Court records clearly documented his threatening behavior in November 2023 and the brutal assault just weeks before the murder. Yet the system lacked proper risk assessment protocols to identify Jones as a high-risk offender. When judges determine bail, they often focus on flight risk rather than danger assessment. In domestic violence cases, this approach proves catastrophic. For Jones, his repeated violence toward Kiera should have triggered enhanced scrutiny and potentially preventative detention. Many jurisdictions now implement specialized bail evaluation tools for domestic violence cases, but Nash County hadn't adopted such measures. Without these safeguards, the decision to grant bail became a death sentence for 2 innocent lives. The cruel irony that Kiera herself helped secure this release underscores how victims often remain emotionally tethered to their abusers despite clear danger signals. Rural communities like Rocky Mount face critical gaps in domestic violence infrastructure. When Kiera needed help most, the nearest domestic violence shelter was over 30 miles away with limited capacity. Transportation barriers make reaching these resources nearly impossible for many rural victims. In Kiera's case, police responded to previous incidents, including Jones' threatening behavior and physical assault. Yet these interventions failed to prevent escalation. Officers often encounter reluctant victims. After Jones' arrest for assault, Kiera reportedly minimized the incident, a common trauma response and survival mechanism among abuse victims. Without specialized training, officers may misinterpret this behavior as indicating the situation isn't serious. Even when victims cooperate, protective orders, commonly called restraining orders, have limited effectiveness. These court documents provide legal recourse after a violation occurs but cannot physically stop an abuser from approaching a victim. For someone like Jones, who demonstrated repeated disregard for legal boundaries, a paper order offered little protection. The fragmented nature of jurisdiction created additional gaps. Jones' violence crossed county lines, requiring coordination between multiple agencies. Information sharing between departments remains inconsistent nationwide, which can prevent officers from recognizing the full pattern of escalating danger. Many departments now implement lethality assessment programs, training officers to identify high-risk cases and immediately connect victims with services. Had such protocols been in place and effectively implemented, Kiera might have received enhanced protection and resources that recognized the extreme danger Jones posed, potentially saving 2 precious lives. Kiera's story follows a pattern that domestic violence experts have documented for decades. The progression from verbal threats to physical assault is not random, it's a calculated path that becomes increasingly dangerous over time. Daquan's November 2023 threat, "You think I'm playing, I'm gonna hurt you," wasn't just angry words, it was the first documented warning sign of what would follow. By July 2024, those threats transformed into physical violence, teeth knocked out, a fractured nose, serious injuries that required medical attention. This escalation is textbook. Studies show that approximately 70% of domestic homicide victims experienced physical abuse before being killed. The most dangerous moment for victims often comes when they attempt to leave or when the abuser perceives loss of control, exactly what happened when Daquan was released from jail. Understanding this progression can save lives. When someone threatens violence, believe them. Their words reveal intentions that too often become actions when dismissed as just talk or empty threats. When Kiera helped post bail for the man who had physically assaulted her just weeks earlier, she demonstrated a common pattern seen in domestic violence cases. Victims often remain connected to their abusers due to complex emotional bonds, financial dependence, and fear of escalation if they attempt to leave. What might have changed Kiera's fate was a stronger support network specifically trained to recognize these dynamics. Friends, family, coworkers, and neighbors can be crucial lifelines, but only when they understand how to effectively intervene. This isn't about judging victims' choices, but rather creating environments where they can safely explore options. Professional advocates who understand trauma bonding and coercive control can help victims develop safety plans even when they're not ready to leave. Communities must recognize that simply telling someone to leave an abuser isn't enough. Concrete support, including safe housing, financial assistance, and ongoing protection, are essential components that can mean the difference between life and death. For anyone experiencing domestic violence, numerous resources exist that offer confidential support. The National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233 provides 24/7 crisis intervention and safety planning in over 200 languages. Their website offers a discreet chat option that leaves no digital footprint. Local shelters provide emergency housing, often with transportation assistance for those unable to reach facilities independently. Legal aid organizations offer free representation for protection orders and custody matters. Misinformation has power only when it reaches those who need it most. Take a moment right now to share this video with someone in your life. It could reach a person silently struggling with abuse or a friend who doesn't recognize the warning signs in a loved one's relationship. Leave a comment below about how you plan to use what you've learned today. Have you recognized warning signs we discussed? Do you know someone who might benefit from the resources mentioned? By creating this dialogue, we build a community of awareness. Every share, every conversation sparked by this video creates a web of protection that might save someone like Kiera or Zoey. Though their lives were cut short, Kiera and Zoey Massenburg left an indelible mark on their community. Kiera's radiant smile and unwavering kindness continue to live in the memories of everyone who knew her at Moandees and throughout Rocky Mount. Friends speak of her generosity, her resilience, and her dedication as a mother. 6-year-old Zoey's love for dancing and singing inspired those around her. Their names now serve as powerful symbols in the fight against domestic violence. The balloon releases, memorial funds, and community gatherings in their honor demonstrate how deeply they touch those around them, a testament that their impact extends far beyond their time on Earth. In the wake of this tragedy, numerous advocacy initiatives have emerged across North Carolina. Domestic violence survivor Christy Melvin has used Kiera and Zoey's story to advocate for Jesse's Law, legislation designed to better protect children in households affected by abuse. The $20,000 raised through community fundraising efforts partially funds a new emergency housing program for families fleeing violence. Through these concrete actions, the community transforms grief into meaningful change that protects others. The story of Kiera and Zoey reminds us that domestic violence prevention requires collective action. For those watching who may be experiencing abuse, your safety matters. The National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233 provides 24/7 confidential support and safety planning. You deserve protection, regardless of your circumstances. For everyone else, become educated about domestic violence. Support local shelters. Vote for policies that strengthen protection orders and improve risk assessment in bail decisions. Have difficult conversations about healthy relationships with young people in your life. As Sheriff Calvin Woodard noted after Kiera and Zoey's deaths, the system needs to work more to protect innocent people. Until that system improves, we must be vigilant in protecting one another because lives quite literally depend on it.